Do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? The RSPCA say banning certain dog breeds has not reduced the number of dog attacks in this country. Pit bulls and so-called fighting dogs from Japan, Brazil and Argentina are illegal in the UK. But the RSPCA say it's no longer fair to put them down just because of their breed, as many are calm, gentle and suitable for rehoming. However, the government department in charge of dog breed policy say the 4 banned breeds do not make good pets, and if found with owners in the UK, they should be put to sleep. Well, I want to hear from you this morning. Do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? I want to know if you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others. The RSPCA say banning certain dog breeds has not reduced the number of dog attacks in this country. Pit bulls and so-called fighting dogs from Japan, Brazil and Argentina are illegal in the UK. But the RSPCA says it's no longer fair to put them down just because of their breed, as many are calm, gentle and suitable for rehoming. However, the government department in charge of dog breed policy says the 4 banned breeds do not make good pets, and if found with owners in the UK, they should be put to sleep. Dr. Samantha Gaines is the RSPCA's dog welfare expert. She explained to Andy Collins on Breakfast this morning why banning breeds doesn't make the world a safer place.
Many of these dogs don't pose a danger to people at all and are family pets that are having their welfare compromised, and their owners are experiencing huge emotional turmoil as part of this act as well. A breed-specific approach which places restrictions on certain types of dogs is not actually effective at reducing dog bites or protecting public safety, and certainly in this country, since we've had the prohibitions, we've seen hospital admissions for dog bites continue to rise. In the last 10 years they've risen over 76%, and there's no research that shows that these types of dogs are more likely to show any more aggression towards people than any other type of dog, so it is a very flawed piece of legislation.
Theo Stewart, who calls herself the dog lady, is a dog behaviourist working in Beds, Herts and Bucks. She says no breeds are inherently bad, and it's up to humans to train dogs to make them safe.
The dogs most likely to bite are usually the dogs actually who do least damage. I believe Dachshunds are the world's most aggressive breed of dog, followed by Chihuahuas, followed by Jack Russells. I don't think that the Pit Bull, now I might be wrong, but I don't think it's in the top 10. The German Shepherd is a lot more likely to bite somebody than a Pit Bull type, and so really it's up to the humans from start to finish. We have the power.
Well, I want to hear from you this morning. Perhaps you've owned or still do own a dog branded as dangerous or a fighting dog. Maybe you've had to have a dog put down in the past because of its aggression. I wonder if you or your dog have been on the receiving end of a dog attack. Is there a kind of breed that you go out of your way to avoid? Whatever your experience, whatever your view, do get involved this morning. Do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? Brian O'Mara is the editor of K9 magazine and a former professional dog trainer. Good morning to you, Ryan.
Good morning.
Morning. What do you think then? Is it unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others?
It is. Unfortunately, we've now had 25 years of the Dangerous Dogs Act and specifically breed-specific legislation to be able to make a sound judgment. And if you thought it was unfair at the time when it was introduced, you would have to say, well, okay, well, let's see how it pans out. And in that sort of quarter of a century time period, we've actually seen dog attacks rise. We've seen many thousands of these dogs that are completely innocent, that have never, ever done anything wrong, seized, taken away from their owners, and destroyed. And ultimately, the taxpayer has paid millions of pounds for that. And we have to get to a point where if you're looking at the likes of the RSPCA, the Kennel Club, the Dogs Trust, the veterinary associations, these are people who are experts that work day in, day out with dogs, and they are universally saying that this law is unfair and hasn't done anything to help people in terms of avoiding dog attacks.
I presume you have a dog yourself.
I have 3. I've got 3 Rottweilers, so I kind of understand a little bit where breed prejudice comes from.
But you are a dog trainer. You know about dogs. You know how to train dogs. So you are perfectly capable of having a big, powerful dog like a Rottweiler. And I'm sure your Rottweilers are very well trained and are under complete control and pose no danger or threat to anyone. However, I'm sure you will encounter, I certainly do as a dog owner, people who get breeds of dogs that frankly they can't control. They take them to public places and it's frightening to be near them.
Absolutely, that is true, and I think that hits the nail on the head in terms of where the problem lies. I think the problem with dogs will ultimately always be an owner-based problem, and so this legislation, as well as seeing many people's innocent, well-behaved, great dogs taken away and killed, it also tends to let other people off the hook that are not suitable to own dogs. So if we are saying, well, the dangerous dog problem can be isolated to 4 types of dogs, the Japanese Tosa, the Fila Brasiliaro, the 3 non-pit bull type dogs, I wouldn't worry about too much because they just haven't been in this country in the first place. But the pit bull type dog is essentially a crossbreed. And so what that means is to produce a pit bull, all you have to do is mate 2 legal dogs together. So let's say we mate a boxer and a mastiff together. If they produce a dog that fits the physical description of a pit bull, as far as the law is concerned, it's a pit bull. And so what we've got there is a problem that, A, it doesn't work in the first place because you can't ban all of the composite breeds that produce a pit bull. And let's say you have got an absolute fully fledged pit bull that is a great family dog that's been well trained. The government is saying that dog's dangerous, and yet that person that you and I are encountering in the park who may have a legal breed that's a German Shepherd, a Japanese Akita, whatever it may be, could be a danger. And so the legislation as it stands is focused in entirely the wrong place. It should be owner-based, not breed-based.
But isn't there an argument that the physicality of the dog is still very important? We have to take that into account. I mean, as you will know, that imprinting stage in your puppy when you first get it is so important that it's well socialized, so important that the dog mixes with children, with other dogs, etc. And if you fail to socialize your dog properly in those first few weeks that you get it, it will never really be 100% relaxed, for example, around other dogs or around children. Now, that can be a problem in any dog, of course, but you would surely admit that a great big kind of a bulldog type dog, or maybe a Rottweiler that you have yourself, physically could do much more damage than, for example, a Jack Russell that can be very snappy.
Well, it's impossible to argue with anything you've said there, and I think this is why it's important that if we're realistic and we accept that we have large, powerful breeds in this world, and we've got thousands of them in this country and around the world, it's inarguable to say if you are going to be bitten by a dog, it would be more preferable to be bitten by a Chihuahua than it would to be bitten by a Rottweiler. And so I think, again, unless we can come up with a system that essentially makes all dogs safe, which is unrealistic, then we have to accept we do have large breeds. The owners of large breeds, I think, are aware of what their dogs are physically capable of. And so the emphasis, again, always comes back to the owner. And so in my dog's case, I've got 3 large breeds. They are friendly, but if a young child came to my house, my dogs could do them serious damage just by their physical presence because they are quite boisterous dogs. So as an owner, I make sure that situation doesn't arise. My view is I would actually have legislation in place that makes it much harder to get a dog in the first place. I wouldn't ban any breeds, but I would absolutely ban the irresponsible people who produce dogs and provide them to people who are quite simply not cut out to own any type of dog. That's where the legislation should be. We've got a completely unregulated supply of dogs in this country. And so if we're looking to fix the problems, then we should start at the start, which is the supply and production of dogs, which the government has done nothing about.
If I had my way, and I don't know what you think of this idea, I would make owning a dog as difficult as passing your driving test and getting and owning a car. I would have exactly the same kind of criteria where you should have to do a test, you should have to pass that test, you then are given a license to hold that dog, but you can have the license taken away from you at any time if you are found to not be a responsible dog owner. You should have to insure your dog, you should have to do all the kinds of things to really instill in people that you are responsible. It's not just as simple as meeting someone down the road who says, oh, do you want to buy a puppy for 20 quid? And the next thing you know, you've got a dog that you have no idea how to control that you're taking out in public places.
Well, I've been pitching that very idea for the last 15 years, that exact idea. And ultimately, I agree entirely that owning a dog is a privilege. It's not a right. At the moment, it's a right. I can go and get a dog within 10 minutes right now. And that can't be right. I actually agree that in order to protect people from dogs and to protect dogs from people, there should be legislation in place that says, well, we're going to make sure that you have the fundamentals down, the understanding, the insurance, that you have a degree of knowledge about what you are about to undertake, because dog ownership is a responsibility not just to the dog but to society at large. And ultimately there will be people that say, well, we couldn't legislate that sort of thing. Have a look at Switzerland, where they've legislated that precise sort of thing. And I don't accept that I want to live in a country where we have a law that simply said, if your dog fits a certain physical description according to a tape measure, it's dangerous, when we all know that dangerous dogs are the product of the people that make them, and we do nothing to actually make it more difficult to get a dog in the first place. If we fix that legislation, we might actually see some positive results.
Ryan, thank you very much indeed. Ryan O'Mara, who's the editor of K9 magazine and a former professional dog trainer. Brian in Milton Keynes texts to say, JVS, the Dogo Argentino dog is banned in this country. In the US and in Canada, it's used as an assistance dog, and therapy dogs, family pets, police dogs, etc. They are very well trained. I love this breed and hate that I cannot own one in the UK. I love all dogs. If the dog is dangerous, blame the owner, not the dog. The thing is, and I'm particularly interested to hear from anybody listening to the programme today that owns a dog that maybe people are wary of. If you own a German Shepherd, if you own a Rottweiler or a Doberman, maybe even you own a Staffy or a Staffy type dog. What do you feel? Do you feel as if you are judged for your dog's breed? Is your dog at all dangerous, or is your dog very well trained and under control? Does your dog pose any kind of threat or risk to society? I'd love to hear from you. The one thing I would say, and this is what I encounter on a regular basis, so many people who get dogs, they don't really know what they're doing. They get a dog and they think they know the dog, but they don't know the dog, because I meet so many people like that who, as their dog comes bounding over towards yours in the park, and they say, oh, don't worry, he's friendly, as the dog suddenly goes, Rrr! You say, oh, yes, it's lovely, it's a very friendly dog, you obviously know that dog very well. All kinds of people get dogs, they don't know what they're doing. Surely we can all accept that if you don't know what you're doing, the smaller the breed of dog, maybe the more typically gentle the breed of dog, the better. Because if you don't know what you're doing, and you go out and you get a German Shepherd or a Rottweiler, then surely you are walking around in a public place with a potential killer at the end of that lead. And that's something that you must take absolute responsibility for. I'm asking, do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? The RSPCA say banning certain dog breeds has not reduced the number of dog attacks in this country. Pit bulls and so-called fighting dogs from Japan, Brazil and Argentina are illegal in the UK. But the RSPCA says it's no longer fair to put them down just because just because of their breed, because many are calm, are gentle and are suitable for rehoming. However, the government department in charge of dog breed policy says the 4 banned breeds do not make good pets, and if found with owners in the UK, they should be put to sleep. Well, my question to you is, do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? Are there some breeds of dogs that you just dislike? Maybe you're like me, you're a dog owner, and there are certain breeds of dog that if you see them out and about in a park or in a public place, you will cross to the other side of the street. If you've ever been attacked by a dog, or maybe your animal has been attacked by a dog, what kind of breed was it? And do you think these people that say, no, there's no such thing as a dangerous breed of dog, do you think it's just wrong? Have you encountered problems with a certain breed of dog? Lots of times. Jackie is in Slip End. Morning, Jackie.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning. You think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Why is that?
because I don't believe that there is such thing as a dangerous dog unless it's kind of, not brought up properly, really, or trained. I mean, I'm actually a dog walker, and some of the dogs I walk, the smaller ones are quite often the worst, I mean, I've never had any incidents where they're bitten or anything like that, but the smaller ones will always bark at, people or dogs.
They can be, yeah. Smaller dogs tend to be very yappy, don't they?
Yes, yeah.
But I guess if a smaller dog did attack you, it's unlikely to do very much damage. Whereas if a big dog attacked you, I mean, God help you.
Yeah, no, I fully understand that. I mean, obviously, with a bigger dog, you've got the power there. With a smaller dog, you can grab it and probably get it off.
But would you not accept as a dog walker, you must encounter lots of people who have a dog and they don't really know what they're doing?
I do, but I've got to be honest, Jonathan, I don't meet many people like that at all.
Really? Oh, I meet them all the time. People who they've got this dog, and the dog they're being pulled along the street. The dog is about a metre in front of them, pulling them. The lead is as tight as anything. They're being pulled along, and then when their dog sees your dog, it wants to come over and say hello, and they just let the dog come over. They have no idea whether my dog's good with other dogs or not, but they just kind of it just wants to say hello, and then. You think to yourself, well, hang on a minute, you clearly don't know anything about dogs because you don't know what my dog's like. I might not want your dog coming over and jumping up all over mine and sniffing my dog's bottom or doing whatever it's doing. They're the kind of people that I meet all the time. Now, that's all right if they've got a Cocker Spaniel on the end of the lead. Yeah. It's all right if they've got a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel or a Cockapoo or whatever it may be. If they come towards me and they've got a German Shepherd or a Rottweiler or even a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, I'm going to be a bit more wary, to be honest.
Yeah, and I can fully understand that because I get, obviously I'm probably quite a bit older than you, but we've actually been, people or my boys, they've actually been brought up to know about the banned breeds, but years ago, I mean, when I was younger, you had stray dogs around walking the streets. But you never ever heard of kind of, dangerous dogs. It was never, it was kind of never talked about really. I mean, okay, you don't get the stray dogs walking the streets like you used to. And I just think it's just a lot of the time it's been blown out of proportion. I mean, I agree with what you're saying. When people have got other dogs and you've got a dog on a lead and their dog runs up to you, you're right, they don't know what. I mean, I don't let all the dogs I walk off leads. Some of the owners don't want their dogs off leads. But that dog could be on a lead for a reason. It might not like other dogs. So why would you want to put your dog in danger of it running up to a dog that's on a lead in the first place?
Okay, Jackie, thank you very much. Nigel in Aylesbury. Good morning, Nigel.
Good morning, Jonathan. Morning.
Morning. What are your thoughts then? Do you think there are some dog breeds that are more dangerous than others?
I think, yes, there probably are, but I think it's also down to the owners. And my situation is at 5 years old. I got knocked over by a Dalmatian puppy in the park, and since then I've been very wary of dogs, and people around me are aware of that, and I have to tell people when I go in, if I see a dog, it doesn't matter. It could be your little dog as well, your little yappy dog that's coming at you. I'm just wary of them because of my situation. And the lady said exactly that, what you said. She said, don't worry, he's being friendly. But there was a 4-year-old on the floor with a Dalmatian puppy licking his face, and that was me, obviously screaming my head off. So, it's down to the people, it's down to training, and all that sort of stuff. Dogs are dogs, and it's the people who control it should look after them properly.
Thank you very much indeed, Nigel. Oh, God. Look who's called in. Steve, good morning.
Steve the dog hater's on. Quick, everybody. Your social media's going to go mad.
It took 25 minutes. So
I've been holding. I'm absolutely fuming. All this waffle that I'm hearing from these dog owners that claim to know their dogs. You don't know them. They're all dangerous. Jonathan. They can all snap. This is absolutely fantastic news for me. I'm sitting here, the RSPCA, they're doing the right thing. Let's ban these dogs.
Steve, you completely misunderstood the story. The RSPCA say banning certain dog breeds has not reduced the number of dog attacks in the country, and they want to get rid of the dog ban. But you don't even understand the story.
Well, look, if it's to do with dogs, I hate them. Ban them. They're dangerous. You know, you can't control your dogs. None of you listeners. I mean, I listened for 10 seconds, to be honest. I just switched off. This trainer that you had on, here we go, we've got another trainer, claims that he knows what his dog can do. You can't control your dogs, your animals. You think you can, but you can't.
Surely you would accept there are some breeds of dog that by their size or by their look, you are more frightened of than others.
Well, it's the statistics. You know, when you look at these attacks, and this is what's actually made, I'm really, really fuming this morning about, you know, hospital admissions for injured that caused by dogs up to 76% in the last 10 years, Jonathan. Official figures for England show over 7,000 admins for dog attacks in the past year, compared with 4,000 a decade ago, with under 10s most likely being admitted. And you know, I'm a family man, and you just need to keep them on a lead.
Yes, but you're an extreme, because you, please correct me if I'm wrong, I think you'd just like to see all dogs banned.
Well, look, it's statistics. I mean, you know, you
No, never mind that. Would you like to see all dogs banned?
Well, what do you mean all dogs banned? I mean, they need to be controlled. You owners need to understand how to control. You're deluded, all you lot. You cannot control. If they want to go, they will go. There's nothing you can do about it. We come back to the same story, running after a hare, a rabbit, a duck. You can't stop them. If they're gonna attack, or they're having a bad day and they're going to go up to a child, you're liable for that. You need to control them. Pit bulls, yes. Japanese tosers, Dogo, Finland. I mean, I don't even know these breeds, but I mean...
Well, you wouldn't, because they're banned in the UK. The RSPCA are saying that the banned list should no longer exist.
Rubbish. I can tell you what, let's add to the banned list German Shepherds, Rottweilers, Dobermans.
Why would you ban German Shepherds, Rottweilers and Dobermans?
They're dangerous dogs. You're going to start going on about police dogs now. You cannot control these wild animals.
You can if you are a good handler.
Rubbish.
Well, no, it's not rubbish. I mean, you just don't know what you're talking about. If you're a good handler, you can control any dog.
You can't communicate to a dog as you can a human being.
You can communicate with.
You'll break it. Daddy will have to pay for it. You can't say that. You can control a dog very often better than you can control a human being. Oh, rubbish, Jonathan.
No, it's not rubbish.
Rubbish.
No.
Absolute. Yes.
If I tell my dog, if I came round to your house and I went out into your garden and I pointed in one corner of your garden and I said to my dog, sit, stay, she would not move from that corner until I released her. Now, you try and do that with one of your children.
No problem. Easily.
No, come on. But this is the point. This is the point. You judge every dog owner as the same. If you have your dog under control, you can put your dog in a place, you can tell your dog to sit and stay, and your dog will sit there for an hour, 2 hours, however long it is.
Rubbish.
No, it's true. You've just never met people that actually control their dogs properly.
Nobody does control their dogs. That's the problem. Maybe I haven't seen it, but in the scenario, yes. But look, if the dog wants to do it, if it saw a pheasant sitting on the wall, Jonathan's not going to say leave. Yeah, it's going to go for it. It wants to.
No, if my dog saw a pheasant and I said leave it. The dog will not go near it.
Rubbish. You and I would be eating pheasant on Friday night round your table.
You have no idea. You have no idea.
You can't control them.
So hang on 1 second. So just so I understand what today's rant is all about. So you would add what? The German Shepherd.
Oh, how long have you got? I've got 10 minutes.
Doberman. Rottweiler.
Staffies.
Any other dog?
American Bulldog. I've got a list of them. I've wrote down a list of them here. And I mean,
What about my dog? What about my dog, the Labrador?
So, oh my God, you've got a Labrador?
Yes.
What, that would be second on the list.
So you'd ban the Labrador as well?
When I was a young boy, everybody's going, oh, this is why he doesn't like dogs. I mean, I've got a whole list of why I don't like dogs. They poo everywhere. They're dirty. You can't control them. The owners, they bound up to you. Oh, leave him alone. He's only coming to say hello. Take him away. Get him off your lead. Go away. Go home. I don't want to see your dog bounding up all over me, right?
Steve, thank you very much. Well, he managed to resist 25 minutes before he calls him. Well, do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? Or do you agree with Steve that, frankly, there are a whole load of dog breeds that you'd quite like to see added to the list? I was talking to Steve, our resident dog hater, who called in a few minutes ago, and he was saying that never mind getting rid of the list, he'd like to see lots of other dogs added to it, like the German Shepherd, Doberman, Rottweiler, Staffordshire Bull Terrier, American Bulldog, Labrador. He said he could go on and on and on with the list of dogs that he would like to see added to the banned breed list. Maybe there are lots of breeds of dogs that you just despise when you're out and about, maybe with your children, and you see certain types of dog. Have you ever gone to the other side of the park? If you're a dog owner like me, do you dread coming across certain breeds because in your experience they've always got an issue with other dogs? They're always aggressive. Mike says on the text, I was bitten by a staffy about a year ago. The owner was standing at the station in a tracksuit with a can of lager. His dog was not a pet, it was a statement. My 70-year-old nan and granddad had the same dog but bigger, but he was the most friendly dog ever. Tramps that can't support themselves should not own dogs. Gosh, Mike, we've gone on quite a journey with you in that text. Tony in Dunstable says, Morning JVS, my uncle had an American pit bull from a pup. The dog was great with kids and other dogs. Whilst out one day walking, she was attacked by another dog without warning, and we had to have her put down. Thank you. Aaron Fletcher is a veterinary surgeon at the Heath Lodge Veterinary Group in St Albans. Good morning to you.
Hi.
Hi. Do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others?
I think I do. In my experience, with people coming through the door with dogs, it's never really the dog breed. It's more the owner or the person who is training them, which determines whether a dog is aggressive or not. Certainly with me in the consult, I certainly think that saying that certain breeds are dangerous just perpetuates this myth that dogs perpetuates the myth that these breeds are aggressive. It's usually the trainers which are causing it.
But there must be some breeds that come in, for injections or whatever with you that you are more nervous of than others.
Yes, and those are the ones which generally aren't on the Dangerous Dogs Act list. So say, for example, the dog which I would say bites me with alarming frequency are these small dogs which are mollycoddled and not exposed to socialisation with other dogs, so your Chihuahuas, your smaller breed dogs. And I think that that's because people are under the assumption that, if it bites, it doesn't matter, because of the perceived damage they can do is less. However, I can say from personal experience that getting bitten by one of these dogs doesn't mean there's any less damage. It really does still hurt. It's just that people perceive that it's fine, it's cute that their little dog is biting people. So I think that saying that certain breeds are more dangerous than others, I think is unfair, because the dogs which are on the list aren't the ones or the dogs which people have talked about on this show, aren't the ones which I'm seeing biting people, because if they do, they are put down straight away.
But surely, for example, if you've got an aggressive dog, let's take the Chihuahua.
Yep.
And let's take a Rottweiler.
Yep.
Both have not been socialised properly as puppies. Both have not been exposed to everything that they should have been exposed to in that limited window of opportunity.
Yeah.
They come in and both of them are aggressive. Yeah. Now, surely you would accept, just because of the physicality of the Rottweiler, if that Rottweiler went for you, you really would be in serious trouble.
Yeah, I agree that the perceived damage you can get from larger dogs is worse. But I don't think that saying that this breed is a problem is addressing the issue. The issue in both of those cases were animals which weren't socialised early enough, and the issue is with the training of the animals, not the breed itself. I've got a receptionist here who's got Rottweilers. They are the nicest dogs ever. They have been trained. They are very nice. And in that exact scenario, the problem is never with the breed of the dog. The problem is with the person who is training them, socialising them, getting them to know other people. So yes, I agree that the perceived damage is greater for larger dogs, but I don't think that's the problem. I think the problem is the training.
Just out of interest, how do you respond if a customer's dog bites you?
A lot of it depends on how the owner's responded to it themselves. People with dogs which are nervous, they know their dogs are nervous. They often warn you in advance, and you can take steps to prevent that. If an owner is quite blasé about it, then I will tell them that this is not normal behaviour for their dog, and that they shouldn't. They should be trying to train their dog, and we talk about ways to reduce that. And in certain cases, if they have bitten people, then I say, well, we need to go to a behaviourist to help get this sorted because it is a serious issue. So if the dogs do bite us or do attempt to bite us, we have a chat about how we can solve that problem.
Well, it's very understanding. If a dog bit me, I'd call the police.
Well, it is. Well, yeah, and I think that as a member of the public, that's what I would do. But I'm not a member of the public. My job is to ensure animal welfare and health, and if I can do that through education and training, then I will certainly do that. Take that route over anything else.
Good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed, Aaron. Aaron Fletcher is a veterinary surgeon at the Heath Lodge Veterinary Group in St Albans. Michael has contacted the programme to have his say this morning. Good morning to you, Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning. What do you think about different breeds of dog? Are there some that are more dangerous than others?
Well, there's always going to be breeds that are more dangerous than others. I've got an 8-month-old Husky German Shepherd cross, and I've seen people cross the street. He's as daft as a brush, but then all owners will say their dogs are soft. But again, we go back to the small dogs. They're the dogs that have got the attitude. They're the ones that are more likely to nip you than the big ones. So I'll
tell you the thing I often get with German Shepherds that will make me wary as someone with a Labrador. Yeah. It's the stare. There are some, and it seems to be something very particular about German Shepherds. I've seen it in Japanese Akitas as well.
Yeah, dangerous breed that is for me.
Oh really? Oh, now you're picking and choosing. But I've seen it in German Shepherds as well. They will look at your dog, and they fix a stare on it, and you can see, and the back starts to go down, and they're on the lead, and you're thinking to yourself, you better have hold of that lead because your dog is desperate to come over and get at mine. And I will quite often shout over at people, and it seems to be something quite particular about that kind of breed of dog. If I saw your dog being kind of bouncy and fun and happy on the end of the lead, it probably wouldn't worry me. But if it was doing that slinky lower back stare thing, that would make me worried.
Well, I've been bitten twice as a kid by a German Shepherd. But I still love them to bits. I think they're an absolutely gorgeous looking dog. And it's, the dogs, all dogs, it's down to the trainer, it's down to the owner to treat the dog, But you probably would cross, to be honest, Jonathan, because my little one, he does pull. I don't know whether it's the breed, it's the Husky in him. It could be the German Shepherd. I'm not 100% sure, but he's quite an energetic dog. And I'd say I've had people pull the dogs aside,
But what kind of training do you do with him?
Well, I do the click training to see whether that works. I am still quite new to this, I have to admit. Although I've had dogs in the past, but they were via my parents.
But you see, let me be, and I don't want to be rude to you in any way, but let me be a bit harsh. Mm-hmm. You've got, by your own admission, you've got a powerful dog. You've got a crossbreed of a Husky and a German Shepherd. Now that's a real combination. That's a really both high energy dogs. Very intelligent dogs as well, need an awful lot of stimulation, need an awful lot of training,
Yeah.
And yet I just said to you, what kind of training do you do? And you said, well, I'm trying a bit of that click thing to see if that works. I mean, it doesn't sound as if you've properly enrolled in a dog school, or it sounds as if you're not going regularly to any kind of structured training that can help you be a really responsible owner of that kind of dog.
No, I haven't. I admit I haven't gone to any training.
Why not?
But because I like to, you know, I am. I mean, I might. Everything changes. But I have some knowledge of how to train a dog, whether it's the correct way or not. I'm, you know, to be honest,
you haven't just got any kind of dog. You've got a very powerful dog and a very energetic dog and a dog that needs an awful lot of stimulation. And if it gets bored, that's when you're going to start to have trouble. So, and yet you're not doing any formal structured training with a dog expert.
My dag's pretty good. I mean, he's not. He hasn't got credits after his name, but he's trained his dogs very well. So you know, he's got two rough collies, and we all go walking together. So Dexter still likes to jump up and down. He does he likes to play with everybody, but he's actually a very lazy dog.
How old was Dexter when you got him?
He was about 9 weeks old, I believe, 10 weeks old, something like that.
And when did the imprinting stage finish for him?
Imprinting? Sorry, I don't understand that one. What do you mean? I have to be honest.
How can you get a dog as powerful as the dog that you've got, and not have any idea about the imprinting stage?
I don't have any comment on that, I'm afraid.
You don't even know what the most important stage with any dog, and you don't even know what it is.
It's the rules. Well, it's the rules, isn't it?
No, it's not the rules.
All right, then sorry, then I don't know.
But I can't believe that. I can't believe that you'd get a dog, the kind of dog that you've got, and you don't even know what the imprinting stage is.
Yeah, probably. I've got the dog for me. He's, you know, he is what he is. Yes, he is a big, powerful dog. But at the same time, he's as docile as a brush. And as I say, I know all.
So the imprinting stage, just so you're aware, the imprinting stage, and I would have thought you would have found this out before you got yourself a dog, is the limited window of opportunity between, well, it can go up to about 16 weeks of age, where you have to expose the dog to absolutely everything it's going to come into contact with in a positive way in its life. And if you don't do that, if there's something you don't do properly in that stage, the dog will always have issues. So if you haven't properly socialised your dog with at least 50 to 150 dogs in that small opportunity of time, your dog will always have some issues with certain breeds of dog.
Right, right. So you're talking 16 weeks from what? When you get the puppy, or
no? 16 weeks of age.
Right. Well, Dexter was only out after 12 weeks after having his jab, so that gives you a 4-week period to meet 150 dogs.
That's right. Which is why people if they're responsible, they take their dog to puppy training, where they mix with lots of other dogs from a young age. They take their dog to the park, where they meet lots and lots of different dogs.
Which he's done.
They take their dog to every single friend they know that has a dog, so that they meet lots of dogs. They take their dogs to the supermarket car park, and they open the boot of the car, and they let their dog meet every single human being that's going in and out of that supermarket. That's what you do.
Which we have done. We haven't done the supermarket because I don't really think it's fair to leave a dog in the boot of a car.
You don't leave the dog in the boot of the car. You sit on the boot of the car with your dog so that people coming past can say hello to the little cute puppy, and then the dog gets to meet lots of people.
In which case, then I've got 85% of it. I haven't done everything on the list, no.
When I say all of this, Margaret, I'm genuinely not saying it to have a go at you, but I just wanted to illustrate what I encounter on a regular basis, and that's that an awful lot of people do get breeds of dogs that are quite big and quite powerful and involve an awful lot of work, but they don't really know what they're doing, because until you've kind of done it, you don't really know what you're doing.
Well, I mean, you called it what you called it. I mean, I have done about 85% of what you've listed. So from the moment he was able to go out, he has been interacting with children, other dogs, other people. So I have taken him for walks to the local shops to meet people and stuff like that. So I've done most of it. I haven't done everything on your list. No.
Okay.
I admit that.
Michael, thank you very much indeed. Anne in Wilstead. Hello, Anne.
Hello, Jonathan.
Good morning, Anne. What would you like to say?
humans. It's the humans that are the problem, not the dogs.
Yes.
My first encounter was in my own home when I was a young girl, and somebody's come to visit with an Alsatian and their children, and I picked one of their children up, and the dog made for me, and luckily the owner stopped it. So since then, and then I was 19, I had to leap a fence one morning on my way to work because a dog came charging down the road straight at me, so I hopped into someone's garden. Oh, before that, when I was 14, 15, I was taking a niece to the Saturday morning pictures at the Odeon, and we were going to get the bus, and an Alsatian ran up the road and took a piece out of her thigh. And then my youngest son was bitten twice by, I think they were both just mongrels, but both were in charge, children were in charge of them at the time. Other children had them on a lead. So I'm one of those people that won't knock on a door in case there's a dog. The last gentleman who said people cross the road when they see his dog, I wouldn't even cross the road. I'd just turn and go the other direction. From what
I heard from Michael sounds like a very nice guy, but I think I would also cross the road because he's got a dog. He's got a big dog that, by his own admission, pulls on the lead. So you can imagine the dog is out the front. He's being pulled along behind this dog. You're thinking that guy hasn't got control of that dog.
I know. I see so many people like that, Jonathan.
Yes, but if your dog is pulling you along, you haven't got control of it. The dog is the one taking you for the walk, not the other way round.
At heel.
Of course it's supposed to be at heel. Of course it's supposed to be at heel, but it's not at heel. So it's pulling on the lead. It's a dog that is already probably going to be looking at mine. Now, I don't know why it's looking at mine. Is it looking at mine because it wants to play with mine? Is it looking at mine because it wants to come over and eat mine? I have no idea.
No, don't know.
But this is the kind of thing. But you can have that. You can have that with any breed of dog.
Oh, yeah.
But of course, it doesn't matter so much if it's a little dog, because you think, well, even if that dog did come over and absolutely savage me, there's only a limited. It can't kill me. Of
course. Oh, another thing. A niece of mine, she had a Rottweiler and a Doberman, and I never went to her house for 7 years.
Right. Okay. And thank you very much indeed. I'm asking, do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? The RSPCA say banning certain dog breeds has not reduced the number of dog attacks in this country. Pit bulls and so-called fighting dogs from Japan, Brazil and Argentina are illegal in the UK. But the RSPCA says it's no longer fair to put them down just because of their breed, because many are calm, gentle and suitable for rehoming. However, the government department in charge of dog breeds policy says the 4 banned breeds do not make good pets, and if found with owners in the UK, they should be put to sleep. Well, my question to you is, do you think it's unfair to brand some dog breeds as more dangerous than others? Trish in High Wycombe. Hello, Trish.
Morning, Jonathan.
Morning, Trish. I'll tell you what, Trish, you're on a bad line. I'll pass you back to the team. We'll get you on a better line. I'll come back to you. Let me speak to Nina. Good morning, Nina.
Good morning, Jonathan.
You're
being very authoritative this morning.
Well, I just think it's quite important for people to realise that if you get a dog, it's a real responsibility. If you get a really big dog, if you get a powerful and aggressive dog, then you have an immense responsibility. And I think, in my experience, and I don't know what you think, but there are an awful lot of people that get these huge dogs and they don't really know what they're doing. And that's frightening.
Well, I've always had German Shepherds, so I've been listening with fascination this morning because they've been brought up in conversation a few times. Something I would like to say, Jonathan, is that about 3 years ago, my current German Shepherd is 8 years of age now. He was attacked on farm property by a Labrador and a Boxer. And I've trained with him since the day I took him home as a puppy, just teaching him how to sit. It's never too early. You can make it fun for them. He's done field trial training. He couldn't go into competition because he has bad back legs. But now I do have a problem with him. He's got issues when he sees Labradors and Boxers. So I'm working with him to try and address those issues. But
yes, your dog has now suffered because somebody else hadn't got control of their dogs and hadn't properly socialised their dogs.
they had no intention of calling their dogs even. I could see that there was going to be a problem. My dog never goes off the lead. Years ago, when I got my first German Shepherd, he was never off on the lead. He was absolutely amazing. Yes, I trained with him. He walked to heel. If I had that same dog now, I would still have him on the lead, simply because of the breed he is. It's really sad, but the DDA Act has to be amended. It's just a knee-jerk reaction to the public persona of certain breeds. I've been highlighting 2 cases on my Twitter feed for the last few weeks. One was Hank. Did you see that one, Jonathan?
No.
He was. It's Belfast Council. They're notorious. They will look at a dog regardless of whether it was a lab cross. I'm not sure what Hank was supposed to be, but he was just literally taken off the owners as a pit bull type. The softest dog, apparently, lovely family dog. What they do is take them off of the owners. They keep them in isolation, so the owners cannot see them. They have very limited contact with people.
And then, of course, the dog goes a bit loopy-loop. Listen, Nina, I want to leave it there. I want to squeeze Trish in before the news. Thank you for your call, though. Hello, Trish.
Hi there, can you hear me now?
I can hear you better now. Yes, you've got 1 minute, Trish. What do you want to say?
Right. There's a thing called a muzzle, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Anybody that takes their dog off their property, including you put a muzzle on your dog. When you go home, you take the muzzle off your dog. And
why would you like to see all dogs muzzled? What's your reason for that?
They can't bite anybody. How can a dog bite if it's got a muzzle on?
But why does your dog need a muzzle if your dog's not going to bite?
Well, like other people have said, you can't guarantee. I mean, you sound like you've obviously trained your Poppy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've trained her beautifully, and I wouldn't suggest for 1 minute that she would bite. But you can't pick and choose which ones are muzzled. If you muzzle the lot, there will be no more dog attacks.
So you think that's the safest way to deal with the problem? If we have a problem where dogs are attacking either humans or other dogs, the best thing to do is just put in a sweeping ban on any dog going out of the house without a muzzle on?
Yep.
OK, well, it's certainly an idea. Trish, thank you very much. Black Lives Matter campaigners have been charged with obstruction after lying down in the road to block access to a number of UK airports and tram stops to raise awareness for their campaign. The Black Lives Matter campaign was formed in the United States back in 2012 to highlight the number of black people dying at the hands of heavy-handed or trigger-happy police. And it's now spread to the UK as campaigners seek to hold the police to account when, for example, their conduct ends in the death of black people like Mark Duggan, or indeed the death of people being held in police custody. Here's a flavour of what happened when protesters blocked access to thousands of motorists trying to get to the airports, including Heathrow and Birmingham.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice!
Oh, it's madness, mate. They need to go and get a job, don't they? They should take the protests to where it should be, in America, not in England.
Audio there recorded by Channel 4. Well, I want to hear from you this morning. Perhaps you agree with some of those disrupted by the protests, that it's in America where black people face the greatest inequality. It's in America where we see unarmed civilians being shot in the back by overzealous police officers. And there's just no justification for people in the UK to protest in such a way that thousands of innocent motorists and holidaymakers are disrupted, potentially missing flights and their well-deserved holidays. Or maybe you think it's time we woke up to the fact that this country is still a place where black people face inequality and racism every day, and the protesters are right to make their point in such a way which gains the attention of the media around the world. Pick up the phone, come on and share your thoughts on this, your views, your experiences. Do you think we need the Black Lives Matter campaign in this country? An 18-year-old has been denied work at a health food shop because apparently he's got tattoos all over his hands. And the shop is concerned that customers won't like it. Well, I'm interested to know whether that would bother you. Does it bother you if you get served by someone in a shop or in a restaurant that's got visible tattoos? Your calls a little later. First, though, I want to talk to you about the Black Lives Matter campaign, which is gaining more and more support and momentum in the UK at the moment. Why are we discussing this? Well, you may well have noticed it happened at the end of last week. A handful of Black Lives Matter campaigners, they were lying down in the road to block access to a number of UK airports and tram stops. Well, we gather today it's come to light that a handful of those protesters have now been charged with obstruction. The Black Lives Matter campaign was formed in the United States back in 2012 to highlight the number of black people dying at the hands of heavy-handed or trigger-happy police. And it's now spread to the UK as campaigners seek to hold the police to account when, for example, their conduct ends in the death of black people like Mark Duggan, or indeed the death of people being held in police custody. If you haven't seen their protest, if you missed what happened at the end of last week, here's just a flavour when they took to the roads to make their voices heard.
No justice! No peace! No justice! No peace! No justice!
Oh, it's madness, mate. They need to go and get a job, don't they? They should take the protests to where it should be, in America, not in England.
Well, I'm interested to hear from you this morning. Perhaps you agree with some of those disrupted by the protests, that it's in America where black people face the greatest inequality. It's in America where unarmed people end up being shot in the back by, it would appear, overzealous police officers. And maybe you feel that there is no justification here in the UK for people to protest in such a way that disrupts totally innocent holidaymakers. Or do you think it's time we woke up to the fact that this country is still a place where black people face inequality and racism every single day, and the protesters are right to make their point in any way that ultimately gains the attention of the media here and around the world? Mickey in Hatfield has called to have his say. Morning, Mickey.
Good morning.
Morning. What do you think? Do we need the Black Lives Matter campaign here?
Well, it's a different question. I mean, in regards to the people that protested, I think they should be arrested and prosecuted. I think it's an absolutely ridiculous thing that they're doing. As to whether people want to, participate on an online campaign for a plausible cause, then that's a whole different question, as obviously the tactics of some American officers are questionable. But the reason
so hang on one second, just so I understand what you're saying then. You're saying it's fine to join a campaign group, it's fine to make your voice heard about injustice in America, but to protest in this country and to disrupt people's lives in this country, that's what you don't accept or agree with?
Absolutely. I think that we've worked very hard to get an equilibrium in this country where we operate in such a smooth but regimented process. You know, we effectively establish laws that people abide to without any great discomfort to all races, religions and people. And I think these people doing what they're doing is going to take us backwards. Now, what I've seen, I work in the music industry for my evening job, and I work with a lot of recording artists. And at the minute, there is a fair amount of ethnic diversity, if you like, within my portfolio. And what I've seen is I have certain young people that are growing up in areas of Hertfordshire that are now jumping on the bandwagon because they've got 6,000 American friends on their Facebook, Twitter and Insta, and all they see all day and all night is videos and posts about negativity surrounding enforcement law in the US. And it's becoming like a fashion, if you like. So they're getting caught up in the hysteria, and they're trying to find ways that they can represent themselves by having that same connection. So they say, oh, I was walking down Tottenham High Street and I got stopped by the police for no reason because I was black, and they're making it a thing because it's fashionable. And I think what...
Yeah, but how do you know that that's not true?
Very, very simple. Yes, you're right. It might be true. In my experience, I have a lot of... my friends are very diverse, if you like. I have very minimal white friends. And in my entire life, and I've been in some questionable circumstances, have I ever really had to doubt the British police? And you know what? I've spent a vast majority of my life being in the opposition of the police, if you like. And I've grown up to hate them. The people that have been, bringing me out, I've grown to dislike the police. However, they do a very good job, and in most scenarios, they're very indiscriminate, and
But how can you say that? That's a bit like me. I'm presuming you're white, Mickey.
I am indeed. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
physically.
I as a white man, how can I possibly know what it's like for a black man in terms of treatment from the police? I can't possibly know that, can I?
Well, it depends. What's your friend range? How often do you spend during the week with black people? How often are you in situations...
I have friends that are black, but how can I possibly be with them 24 hours a day to walk in their shoes and to understand exactly what life is like where the police are concerned?
So 24 hours a day, no. However, you can put together a big enough picture. If you've been in a scenario where you've been with black friends and you have been questioned by police 10, 15, 20 times, which I'm going to be honest with you, I'm probably vastly more qualified than you are. I doubt very much that you get pulled over in Tottenham High Street with your black friends on a Friday night, whereas that does happen with me quite often. The problem is that it's now more relevant for my black friends to have an issue or to make it more vocal in our music than it was 5-6 years ago. And the reason is because it's fashionable at the minute. That's what it's all about. It's how music...
So it's because of fashion, it's not because of genuine injustice that needs to be dealt with in this country.
What I'm saying is that social media does tend to have a little bit of an influence on the way people think. And if you're sitting down all day watching posts and videos about these sorts of things, you are going to be impressioned by them, and you are going to try and connect with your friends that are experiencing the same problems.
Right. Mickey, stay there. I want to bring Natasha Nkonde in, who is an activist with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'd be very interested to see how she responds to some of the things you've said. Good morning, Natasha.
Good morning.
So Mickey really feels that anybody who jumps on this bandwagon in the UK, it's all because of fashion. There is not genuine injustice really in this country that needs to be dealt with in the same way.
Okay, let me deal with this with 4 key points. We know that there is state violence that happens disproportionately to black people in this country. There have been since 1990 over 1,500 deaths in police custody. Some of them absolutely horrific. A black man called Liam Patterson was killed in police custody and found with 32 wounds on his body, including part of his nose cut off, and nobody was held to account for that. A pathologist admitted in court to fabricating evidence about Leon's death, and yet still nobody was held accountable. This is one of the reasons why the Black Lives Matter UK movement is happening here. We want to hold the police to account when they use lethal violence. I think that's a tiny thing to ask for. And of course, the police are meant to be there to protect us. And when they are not protecting us, when that is leading to people's deaths, somebody needs to be held to account for that. And there have been 0 convictions since 1990 for anyone who died in police custody. We know that there are deportations and horrific abuse happening in detention centres to migrants. One of the reasons why we chose Heathrow as a place to have the protest was because Jimmy Mabenga was killed whilst being deported in 2010, and nobody was held to account for his death. And just by Heathrow are 2 immigration detention centres. And there's been a number of different investigations that have shown abuse happening in those centres.
But if we accept that what you say has some truth in it, then there are ways and means of fighting that injustice and dealing with that injustice that doesn't involve blocking the road to lots of innocent holidaymakers who are just trying to get away on their summer holiday. I mean, surely that was an unkind and cruel thing to do to totally innocent people.
I think you have to remember that the conventional avenues have been shut down to us for justice. There were organisations.
How can conventional attitudes be shut down in this country when we have lots of, for example, black MPs in the House of Commons? Black people have a voice in this country. It's not the same as in America, is it?
Okay, so there's an organisation called the United Friends and Families Campaign, which is made up of the loved ones of people who've died in police custody. They have been running for a number of decades now. They have gone through courts. They've gone to the Independent Police Complaints Commission. They, every single year, do a march and hand in a petition to Downing Street and yet there have been zero convictions since 1990 for any of the deaths in police custody. We can completely understand that people are irritated or were irritated by, having their journey stopped. But when you consider that somebody like Leon Patterson's family have been waiting for justice for 24 years, compared to a few hours of you being inconvenienced, I think we have to understand where the rage, the passion, and the need for using different types of tactics is coming from. I'd like to speak about some of the increase in street racism since post-Brexit. There's been a 57% rise in racist hate crimes post-Brexit. It is dangerous to be a black or brown person walking around in the streets at the moment, and the severity and seriousness of that needs to be understood. A lot of those people are Muslims who are being attacked. A lot of those people are Muslim women who are being attacked. Those facts can't be denied. The experiences of being a black person in this country, be it state violence, be it through being a migrant, be it through street racism, be it through endemic inequality where black women are 3 times more likely to be unemployed versus white women, black people are telling you themselves that there is something seriously wrong in this country.
There you go, Mickey. It is justified because there is a need for it in this country. That's why Natasha and others are protesting. That is why they are joining this campaign.
The problem with this is, and I have to be careful how I phrase this, and you also have to bear in mind that I have been brought up with African family members, so I certainly feel like I am speaking from a relatively neutral point of view, and I do also appreciate that there is a need to try and help America. However, what I think the problem with this is, even by having this very conversation, and this lady here, I can't remember your name, I do apologise. Natasha, I could never, this isn't a matter of winning an argument. No matter what I say, I'm not going to be right. No matter what she says, she's not going to be right. But the more that she talks about it, the more relevant she makes the situation, and the more the people that have never even thought about it start thinking about it, and then it becomes more of a thing. You build up momentum, and then you get more people, and before you know it, you've actually caused more of a negative impact than you have.
Well, but that's one way of looking at it. I'm sure what Natasha would argue, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, Natasha, but I would imagine you want there to be a momentum building up, and you want this to become more of a thing because you feel that there is a thing that needs dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have to understand that this isn't something that's new. Black Lives Matter UK is a movement made up of many activists, campaigners, ordinary people who have been organising in many different ways with many different organisations for decades now. So I think to your speaker, this isn't something that people have just started doing in the last few days. It's been a long-standing, racism in this country has been a long-standing problem, and there have been many different organisations and many different tactics being used in order to combat it.
But do you accept, Natasha? I mean, for example, I despise racists, and I would be horrified if I encountered, and am horrified when I have encountered racism. It disgusts me to the core. I've been in the situation before where I've encountered racism, and it's actually made me feel very emotional because that's how it gets to me. However, if I was trying to go on my holiday and I couldn't get to the airport because Black Lives Matter had decided to block the road, you might lose some of my support. And that's the worst thing, isn't it? Because if you're going to try and raise awareness, if you're going to try and get justice, you need people on your side. You don't want to be upsetting people. So you have to find the correct vehicle for getting your message across.
There are many different tactics that are used within campaigning and activism, and they always have been. You only need to look at, for example, the civil rights movement to see that. And if the justice system was fit for purpose in this country, then we wouldn't have to do the things that we're doing. And I'd like to bring it back to the point of why it's happening right here in the UK as well. In 2014, black people made up 10% of the total prison population, whilst actually they only make up 3.5% of the UK's total population. That's according to the Equality and Human Rights Commission. That means there is a greater disparity between the proportion of black people in prison and in the general population than there is in the US. This is a crisis for black people, and you spoke about how you have felt emotional when you see racism happening, and that's not even happening to you. Can you imagine what that feels like when it happens when it happens to me. Imagine what that feels like when it happens to your children.
Yeah, it would be terrible. It would be terrible, and it needs to be stopped.
Terrible. It's hugely frightening. It stops us being able to live our normal lives.
But you're not going to hear any. But you're not. But Natasha, you're not going to hear any sensible, intelligent person arguing with that, because of course. Nobody, I don't think any sensible person wants to live in a country where there is racism, where there is unpleasantness towards anybody else because of their skin colour or because of their cultural background or whatever it may be. However, once you start, you see, the point that Mickey, I think, is making is that once you start to make a big thing of this in terms of protests, in terms of disrupting people's lives, you can actually make the situation worse, not better. Because you then end up creating maybe a level of hostility, maybe a sense of frustration, and there might be some kind of backlash, which is really counterproductive.
I think what you're asking for is that black people should very quietly ask to not be killed or to not be imprisoned or to not have access to their right to work, or to their right to education, and all of the normal things everybody else has, which to me is profoundly... that's not something that is a choice for many of us. For many of us, our lives are being disrupted on a daily basis as a result of racism.
So is yours?
Therefore, we have to go... I'm a black person. I'm saying that my life on a daily basis is disrupted as a result of racism, and therefore...
Tell me how, because Mickey says he's got loads of black friends, he goes out with these black friends all the time, and he feels that it's being exaggerated, this idea that there is an awful lot of racism in this country.
There's plenty of statistics to show that black people are 4 times more likely to be... No, actually, they're not. They're the basis upon which we...
useless, because
they're the basis upon which we make policies, and we make facts. That's how we go about creating policies.
If you was to give me 2 hours
to make society we know that black people are 4 times more likely to be stopped and searched by the police. The police themselves have admitted to this. The police themselves have said that they're going about the process of ensuring that this doesn't continue. So I'm not quite sure what you're saying.
Well, let Mickey make his point. Let Mickey make his point then, Natasha.
I'm going to say a couple of points, and to be honest with you, first of all, in regards to statistics, which aren't worth the paper they're written on, because for every statistic that claims for your argument, there'll be a statistic that claims against your argument, just as in America, Black Lives Matters has actually been disfaced in so many shapes and forms, and they've now been labelled by so many sections of the community as a racist movement, no different from National Front or UK Party. But I don't want to get into that because it's an argument that I can't win and you can't win. So let's avoid that. In regards to real life situations, I've spent the last 20 years with a majority black community, and I absolutely love all of them. And you know what? I wouldn't be where I was today if it wasn't for any of them. But what I will say, and I'm going to be brutally honest with you, I have been a very naughty boy throughout my life. And I can honestly say that 80% of my friends, they have either been drug dealers, some of them have been put away for murder, some of them are thieves. Maybe we should start looking at the statistics of why the statistics are what they are, why black people are getting arrested, why black people...
So are you suggesting that black people are more likely to be involved in crime then?
What I'm saying is, certainly within my circle of friends...
That's been your experience.
That is in my experience. And certainly I don't feel my group of friends represents an abnormal picture of where I live and hang around. I'm not saying that, I think, white people, we're just as bad to blame. But certainly the proportion of black people against white people in my group of friends, it is quite obvious that, whether it's been passed down from their family, whether they've had a tough time.
So hang on, just to be blunt about it then, because Natasha was talking about the fact that there are so many black people in our prisons. Are you suggesting that the reason there are so many black people in our prisons is not because of an inherent racist problem we have in this country, but because, frankly, an awful lot of black people commit crime?
It's because they idolise a certain way of living.
Natasha, do you want to respond to that?
Well, that's what you're saying is essentially a racist statement.
Racist comment. Yeah, I knew you was going to say that because that's the only thing you've got to go on.
I'm going to say that because that's precisely what it is. If we know that black people are 4 times more likely to be stopped and searched by the police, and the police themselves have said this. So it's not as though you can just discredit that as a statistic.
But why did they do that? Why are they?
Can I just ask? Can I ask Mickey what?
Finish my sentence.
Yeah, go on.
You know, you were able to say a bunch of things that are racist statements, and I didn't interrupt you. So you're speaking from my own personal point of view. I've been stopped randomly by the police. I wasn't committing any crime. I wasn't doing anything. That's just the fact that the police profile certain groups within society more so than they profile.
So you have, when I asked you earlier, what has happened to you personally, you have been stopped for no reason by the police yourself, just because you're black.
Whatsoever, yes. So we know that this happens regularly, and this is one of the ways in which black people are treated differently to the rest of society. So if black people are being picked out, specifically being treated differently to the rest of society, then we have an argument for stating that this is a racist society then, and that this needs to stop. And the police themselves have already admitted to the fact that they do this, and that this needs to stop. Like, I don't really understand this line of argument where if an institution themselves agree to the fact that there is institutional racism, everybody still continues to state the opposite. Institutional racism has been, we know that institutional racism happens because institutions have admitted to it. You can go right back to the Macpherson report back in the 90s, where the police were shown to have been institutionally racist for decades. Everybody had been denying it. It took a ton of research and many people to argue and debate this point.
Natasha,
anything could begin to happen.
Natasha, I want to speak to you a little more, if you can hang around, and I want to allow Mickey to respond to what you've just said as well. Can you just hang on for a couple of minutes, Natasha?
Hello, yeah.
Can you hang on?
Yeah.
Can you hang on, Mickey?
I can, yeah.
Okay, come back to both of you in a second. I'm asking the question, do you think we need the Black Lives Matter campaign in this country? You may well have seen on the news on Friday, there was the protest from the Black Lives Matter campaign. They blocked the roads going to airports and some tram lines as well. Now, obviously, the protest is designed and is all because of injustice that is perceived by some black people, particularly from authority. So, for example, racism, inherent racism in the justice system, inherent racism in the police. If you look at what's happening in America, there are very clear examples of pretty horrifying racism, it would appear. Certainly trigger-happy police and heavy-handed police. But the question is, do we have similar kinds of racism here? And do we require the Black Lives Matter campaign to be fighting? Now, Natasha Nakonde is an activist with the Black Lives Matter movement. I hope she's still there. You still there, Natasha?
Yep, I am.
Thanks for hanging on. Mickey in Hatfield was also on the line. Now, if I can just summarise what I think Mickey is trying to get at, because it's a very interesting point. And I'm kind of pleased that we're having a frank discussion around this, because I think frank discussions are necessary. Mickey, let me just paraphrase what the point I think you were making. In America, there is genuine, horrifying racism, it would appear, from some police officers towards black people. In this country, you don't necessarily feel there is the same kind of racism, but you feel that an awful lot of young black men are looking at the young black men that they see in America and are almost wanting to kind of fight their cause or to have the same beliefs as those young black men, even though they may live in a rural part of Beds, Herts and Bucks and have never first-hand experienced racism from the police. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, in a nutshell, largely oriented by social media, because that allows us to be connected very closely with America.
Right. Do you think there's any credibility to that point, Natasha?
No, not at all. I'm not a black man or a black woman, and actually many of the people who have been part of the Black Lives Matter UK movement and broadly the Black Lives Matter movement worldwide have been women, trans and non-binary people. It's not being specifically led by black men, and that women are also impacted by violence.
I didn't mean men, by the way.
For example, Sarah Reid, who was found dead in a prison earlier this year, and she was a black working class woman who had actually been abused by a police officer in the Metropolitan who was being investigated. So we know that many black people are suffering at the hands of the police. I'd like to take on the point about social media. I think social media is allowing a lot more access to information about some of the violence that's being impacted on black people's lives and bodies.
But how do we know if you're talking about social media then, for example, sharing statistics and using those statistics to make an argument to show injustice or racism, how do we know that the statistics are accurate? Because, for example, when it comes to deaths in police custody, we've been contacted by a listener while you've been talking, Natasha, this morning, who says if you look at the statistics from the organisation Inquest, which my team have done, only 10% of deaths in police custody in the UK are deaths of black people. Now, do you recognise that statistic is correct?
Yeah, that statistic is absolutely correct. And when I was quoting the statistic, I was quoting it from Inquest. That's still a higher proportion than what the population, the black population of the UK, which is why when I quoted the Equality and Human Rights Commission, which shows that there is an overrepresentation of black people in prison, which is more disproportionate.
Yeah, but if we work on the basis that out of everybody who is arrested in this country, out of everybody who then dies in custody, only 10% of those people are black. The other 90% will be either white or of different skin colours. Then does that really help your argument, or does it suggest that it's unfair to in any way suggest the police are targeting black people in custody and that's the reason why they're dying?
I don't think so, because any death should not happen in police custody. So 1,563 deaths in police custody is a problem, and the fact that there have been 0 convictions since 1990 is a problem and shows that the IPCC is not fit for purpose. When you look at those deaths that have been in police custody of black people, they have been brutal deaths. I gave the example of Leon Patterson, and his family have waited 24 years for any justice. He was found with 32 wounds on his body. I can name people like Ezell Rodney, Jermaine Baker, people like Umzi Mohammed, who was killed who died a few weeks ago in police custody. What happens when people are dying in police custody and we find out that pathologists have fabricated evidence, and we find out that the IPCC has not done a good enough job of investigating it? That's a real problem. That's a real issue for every single person. If something happens to anybody within my family, I want to know that the police are going to be investigated. And I think it is the right of black people, of all people, to question what is going on with the police and what is going on with the IPCC.
Let me read this text from David Marston, who seems to have a very uncompromising attitude to this subject. Let me read you what he says. I'll get your response, Natasha. JVS, if anything, white people will be treated worse than black or Asian people for fear of people playing the race card. These people need to get rid of their chips on their shoulders. Instead of moaning about black people being searched more or whatever else they're moaning about, how about looking at why that might be? I obviously don't have stats, but in my opinion, minorities do commit more crimes in proportion to white people.
Well, I mean, I think he derailed his own argument by saying he doesn't have any stats, which basically means he's making a statement with no evidence, and it's a statement. And this is part of the reason why...
You want to jump in on that issue, Mickey?
I do, yeah. I must say I'm a little bit pressed for time now, but can I just say a few things and then I'll let you guys be. Thank you for your time. If you look at, first of all, look at statistics. Statistics, I hate statistics because they're useless. There's always just as many pros as there is cons. You can never win an argument with statistics. If you just look at the percentage of black deaths in America and the percentage of who kills black people in America, just check that out in your own time. I think you'll find that predominantly 90% of black people are killed by black people. But moving on swiftly, I just want to say, look, I think that Natasha? Natasha, I do beg your pardon. What I think you should do is, and I'm basing this on my friends and my family that are black, and I think they have, in the 70s and 80s, suffered real racism, and I think if they were listening to this now, they'd be a little bit infuriated at the prospect of what you're saying. But I think you should focus your efforts, your energy, and this passion that you have into maybe a new conquest called Equality Matters, and maybe you should try and get all around equal fairness and try and unite the country rather than creating segregation and creating us to go back into a world of racism. But nonetheless, I wish you luck and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mickey. Natasha, you want to respond to that?
I don't really need to respond to that. We know that black and the ethnic minority community was hit twice as hard by austerity as everyone else, for example. As I already stated earlier on, we know that a black woman is more likely to be unemployed than a white woman. There is plenty of statistics, there are plenty of stories, there are plenty of black people who are standing up, speaking for themselves about their experiences, and have been for decades. The Black Lives Matter UK movement is not the first time that people have spoken out about racism within this country. And I think seeing that there's been a rise post-Brexit in the number of racist hate crimes being reported to the police, a 57% rise, I think everybody needs to be clear about how dangerous and fearful many black and minority groups are in this country.
Good to
and
talk to you.
Something needs to be done about it.
Thank you very much indeed. We'll leave it there. Natasha Nkonde, who's an activist with the Black Lives Matter movement. And next, we'll discuss tattoos and whether it puts you off if you're in a shop or a restaurant and you see a member of staff who's covered in them. So an 18-year-old boy has been denied work in a chain of health food stores because he's got tattoos on his hands and knuckles. Holland and Barrett, who have more than 20 stores across Beds, Herts and Bucks, say that they have high standards of personal appearance and that any body art must be covered up. Well, I'm interested to hear your response to this. Do you think good on Holland and Barrett, or is this outrageous? Does it bother you if people serving in shops have visible tattoos? I'd love your call with your view on 03459 455 555. Jean Brooks-Smith is an etiquette expert. Good morning, Jean.
Good morning, Jonathan. Good to speak with you again.
Nice to speak to you too. So does it bother you if you were to go into a shop or a restaurant and somebody had tattoos all over their hands?
Yes. Do you know, I am so fed up with seeing people with tattoos. I'm with Holland and Barrett. I would and particularly on the hands, and people, you know, the person will be serving people, so you can't put gloves on. I was at a gathering, a wedding on Saturday, and I was so horrified to see all these young people, and one chap had tattoos all over his face. And actually, it quite put me off my meal. And that was just generally with people.
It put you off your meal?
It did. I couldn't help. And he had them on his arms and, oh. But I think if you're dealing with the general public, you know, let's face it, people have tattoos for various reasons, but they certainly don't want to hide them. This is why all the young men at this event had short-sleeved shirts on, because they wanted people to see they had arms covered. I must say, I do blame people like David Beckham. People think that that's the cool thing to do. But I think if you are in the general public, if I was employing a receptionist and she had tattoos that were visible, she wouldn't get the job. First impressions, very important.
Yes, but I mean, I'm not tattooed. I'm sensing you're not either.
No.
But we have to accept tattoos are very, very, very popular now. I mean, as you've said by your own admission, at this wedding, there were loads and loads of young people with tattoos. I mean, does there come a point where actually we just have to accept that tattoos are here to stay, and you can't then discriminate against someone for a job based on the fact that they may have visible tattoos?
I think you're absolutely right. We are in an age now. I mean, once upon a time, you saw the odd tattoo on perhaps, a builder, and now seems to be everywhere. But I do think with a place like Holland and Barrett, they are a health place. And I think if you're considering, you know, you're dealing with the public, you're handing over health products, I think that I think they have a very good point there.
But he said on his hands, he has "Stay True" stay on one side and
Yeah.
true on the other side. That was what he had written on his knuckles. I mean, I guess it could be suggested that that as a message is designed to be life-affirming and peaceful. Does that not kind of tie in with the whole Holland and Barrett, hug a tree kind of image?
Yeah, well, I suppose one could look at it like that, but I still think that for many jobs now it's not acceptable. I mean, if you've got a tiny butterfly, if you're a female and you wear a dress to cover it up, that's fine. But I think, Jonathan, they are so actually in your face is the only word I can say, all these tattoos, because, it's the whole body work. I tell you what I wonder about, when you get to be about 80, whether you're a male or a female, the tattoos are going to look pretty dreadful. And I love Bill and you marry John is not going to be quite the right thing.
That's very true.
I think you've got to take all these things into consideration. And another thing, Jonathan, a lot of these stars, and then Billie Piper, who's just become divorced, she's trying to remove her tattoos. And it's one of the most, having been in the beauty business, it takes a long time by laser.
I've got a friend who had a tattoo on his neck. And when he got a certain job, they said, you can't have that because it's visible over a shirt, so you're going to have it removed. So he's had it removed, and now it looks like a terrible scar. It's a massive scar all the way down his neck. It looks like he's kind of had major surgery, but it was the only way he could keep the job. Jean, thank you very much indeed for your time. Jean Brooks-Smith is an etiquette expert. Dr. John Follett is a senior lecturer in marketing at Cardiff Metropolitan University, and he has a PhD in why people get tattoos. This will be interesting. Good morning to you, John. Thanks for coming on.
Hello, Jonathan. Well, basically, I was just having a little chuckle at what Jean was saying. I mean, for example, she was saying, well, you can't wear gloves if you've got tattoos on your hand. No, I'm sorry. And also as well, I mean, I've had a look at the gentleman's tattoos, and they are not offensive. Holland and Barrett even said to them they weren't offensive. But it is, unfortunately, it was a business. It's the rules and regulation of that business. They have so they can't make exceptions for that particular individual. But I can understand why he's upset. And it is a very generational thing for people being, negative against tattoos.
But look, Jean, for example, she said at this wedding there was someone with tattoos on his face, and it put her off her lunch. I mean, if you're going into Holland and Barrett and you're buying food, and if the effect of someone having tattooed hands kind of makes you feel a bit sick, it's not really going to make you feel great about buying that food.
Well, that's a moot point, considering that their rules and regulations don't allow a person to work there in the first place. But at the same time, I would go back to my original comment saying, why can't they wear gloves? Of course they can wear gloves. That's a fallacy. I mean, the thing being as well is you've got between 20 to 30% of British people who have got tattoos, younger people under the age of 35. And in America, you've got anything up to, I think it's 30 to 35%. So I mean, and it's not going to go away, like you said to Jean. It's here, but what I would say, it is cyclical. I mean, we were back in from 1890 to 1920s. Tattooing was highly fashionable. And it dissipated from the 1950s on with a moral, linking in with the moral panic. And
so those of us that I don't know if are you tattooed?
2/3 of my body.
Oh, God, right, okay. Well, I mean, I guess in many ways then, tattoos are in fashion at the moment, but before I'm dead, maybe people without tattoos will be in fashion, so I'll be back in fashion.
But what I would say, yes, but what I would also say, it's in my own research, it's identified when people are negative about tattoos, it is generational, but also as well, it is also due to one of three criteria: positioning, the artistic content, and how well it's been undertaken. And for example, there was if it's like ACAB or FTP or something offensive like that, which I will not repeat the full thing on radio. Of course, people will be offended. But similarly, if it is artistic and it is actually well placed, then people are not.
To be honest, I just feel it's just such a shame. When I see people with tattoos, my gut reaction is, oh, what a shame. You've taken that lovely arm or that lovely human leg, and you've ruined it.
Yeah, but that's a social construct, right? You are only thinking that because that is what you have been.
No, I just don't think it looks very nice. I don't think tattoos look very nice. I think they make people look dirty.
Yes, your views do not come from out of the blue. They're actually social programming, where you have a point of view, where it has been created by where you've been brought up, the media, etc., etc. And this is again. It is, I would say, generational. It's younger people find it less offensive. Younger people find VBM, it's called, visible body modifications. They find it part of their lifestyle, part of their lives.
All right, John, thank you very much indeed. Dr. John Follett is a senior lecturer in marketing at Cardiff Metropolitan University, and he's got a PhD on why people get tattoos. Denise in Hatfield. Hello, Denise.
Hi, Jonathan.
Hi, what would you like to say?
Well, firstly, I do agree with you. I think they're quite sad, really, because why would you choose something today that you would still want to be wearing in 70 years' time, if you were in your early teens? But I've got something I was told last week was my nephew's girlfriend went for an interview at an airline as a cabin crew, and she was fully qualified to get the job, very presentable, you would have thought she would have been perfect for the job. The first question they asked her was, does she have any tattoos? And she apparently has a small one on her foot, on the inside of her foot, and the interview was over.
Really?
Yep.
Well, would you have been able to see that tattoo?
Well, no, I don't. No, I don't think so. It's only
that seems a bit unfair. I mean, if as part of the job you can't even see the tattoo, I don't think it's anybody else's business.
I think if they asked the question and you've said yes, I agree with you, Jonathan.
Maybe it's making that's interesting. Maybe it's making a judgment on the kind of person that would have a tattoo.
But
I do think that a lot of people who have tattoos, I think it's a sense of searching for an identity, and it's a sense of wanting to kind of show your individuality, or wanting to show that you kind of matter in an artistic way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm one of 6 children, and 3 of them have tattoos, small ones, and 3 of us don't. And to be honest, I think I could identify, without knowing, if I could have identified which 3 of us would have got tattoos.
I won't ask you why, and you'll be pleased to know we're out of time, but I think we can all speculate.